welcome to day 2 of the Great Implementation. My name is Dr. Michael Netzley, and I have the privilege of hosting you on the second day of our conference. Unfortunately, the original host, the super MC, Ricky Nowak, has come down with a virus and lost her voice. So an opportunity for me to brush off the radio voice and work with both Robin and Antonio. And it's certainly a pleasure to welcome you to day 2. Now, last night, Singapore time, the Great Implementation kicked off with a set of fantastic sessions. And for those of you who were not able to join us, we began the evening with Lee Ran from Google. And we spent a lot of time talking about employee well-being, the role that employee well-being plays in effective execution, and also talking about various topics such as how do you measure employee well-being, these more somewhat intangible constructs. So it was a wonderful way to begin the conference. After that, we were joined by Stuart and Des, Stuart Cranier and Des Dearlove from Thinkers 50, who quite generously with their time talked to us about thought leadership and what makes somebody a thought leader. And they talk through things, if you will, ideas such as what exactly makes an idea great. And they talked about how a common idea might be turned on its head, such as the bottom of the pyramid and being able to look at different segments of our customers in a way that traditional frameworks may not have had us looking. They also showed how thought leaders were able to change the vocabulary that we use every day and are able to give us something that is unexpected, yet widely adopted by the public. That was a great session. We then ended yesterday with Paul Lingwan from PwC. And Paul's written several books on digital strategy and implementation. And Paul really gave us a much broader view of strategy. And it was a broader view in the sense that strategy and execution, strategy and implementation cannot be separated from one another from Paul's perspective, and a lovely way to end the day yesterday. So that was day 1, and we are now kicking off and ready to begin day 2. So for day 2 today, we are going to be sharing and talking about the inaugural Implementation Awards, and those are going to be coming up in just a few minutes. And throughout today's session, you'll also hear from our co-founders, both Robin and Antonio, who are going to add a little bit of their own thought leadership to today's segment of the online conference. So fasten your seatbelts. We have a full afternoon ahead of us, a lot of things to work through. And in order to make this a successful conference, please keep in mind, number one, this is a reverse conference, or as I like to joke and show my age, an unconference, where so much of the responsibility is actually going to rest on you. So that means our guests today will speak for a few minutes, but it's your insights, your questions, your curiosity that when you type it into the chat box or open your microphone, that's really what makes the sessions engaging and interesting and meaningful for people. So throughout the day, we welcome you anytime. Please put your questions and comments into the chat box. We are monitoring. And when we get to this portion of the conference where your questions are directed to our guests, we'll probably even ask you or invite you to open your microphone. Now, if you could, in your chat or in Zoom, if you could have both your name and your location so that we know where individuals are dialing in from, that would be fantastic. And when we are in the large group, like right now, please keep your microphone off. The background noise makes it harder for people to listen. In other words, the conference experience improves if we all make an effort to keep our microphones off. But when you're sent to the breakout groups, by all means, turn your microphone on, turn your camera on. Cameras on in particular can really make the engagement a lot better. So let's have mics on, cameras on. In the breakouts, mics off during the large group. And once again, please post your comments or your questions anytime. So this is what we need to do to make today a success. And without further ado, I would like to move to our hosts and the co-founders of the Strategy Implementation Institute. And first of all, it's a pleasure to introduce to you today Antonio Nieto Rodriguez, who is the author of Harvard Business Review Project Management Handbook, as well as 4 other books. Now, over the course of his career, Antonio has been the creator of key concepts such as the project economy or the project manifesto, and his research in global impact in modern management have been recognized by Thinkers 50. He's the former chairman of the Project Management Institute, the founder of Project & Co., and co-founder of the Strategy Implementation Institute. Now, Antonio was born in Madrid, Spain, educated in Germany, Mexico, Italy, and the United States. He's fluent in 5 languages and holds an MBA from London Business School. And you can follow Antonio through his LinkedIn newsletter at any time, lead projects successfully, as well as his website. Antonio, thank you for setting up the conference and joining us today.
Thank you, Michael. And it's a pleasure to see so many friends on the call and celebrate excellence on strategy implementation. Today, it's a special day for Robin and I, after so much time working on the Institute, and be able to recognize great performance. And so we're going to have a very, very insightful morning, afternoon for some people, evenings. It's been recorded, so people will be watching this later on as well. But thank you all for joining, and I'm very, very excited to today and see what we're going to be recognizing. I can't wait to hear some of the speeches and the winners.
Fantastic. Well, I'm certainly keen to see the winners. I know I'm still thinking about the ideas we talked yesterday. So thank you, Antonio. And our other co-founder, Mr. Robin Speculin, who is recognized as a pioneer and an expert in strategy and digital implementation. He is driven to transform strategy implementation by inspiring global leaders to adopt a different mindset and approach. Robin's the founder of 3 companies. He's the CEO of Bridges Business Consultancy International, co-founder of Strategy Implementation Institute, and Digital Leader Specialists. Now, Robin's also a TEDx presenter, a Thinkers 50 nominee, and is a facilitator for some of the best educational institutions in the world: IMD, Duke CE, Singapore Management University, and he's also part of the top 30 global gurus. Now, Robin's also a best-selling author, has written 6 books, including the most recent, World's Best Bank, A Strategic Guide to Digital Transformation, and Strategy Implementation Playbook, a step-by-step guide. And Robin, an equal and heartfelt thank you for setting up the conference and joining us today.
Michael, I have to smile because when you said the best leading universities, Michael and I know each other because we met at one of those universities. So that's why he's promoting the university.
Well.
Welcome, everyone.
All right. So it's great to have everybody here. And we are now looking at our schedule for the day. Going to hand things over to Antonio and Robin. And I'd like to ask the two of you, as we prepare for these inaugural rewards coming up very shortly, what did you find as perhaps the most engaging, or for you, what ideas from yesterday were you still thinking about this morning?
I think we were so honored to have the caliber of presenters yesterday. And for those I know, hi Joe, one of our strong supporters of the Institute, who unfortunately time-wise, which is why we're starting earlier today, because as a global institute, we couldn't get everybody on the same call. So we have recorded it. And, you know, as I reflected yesterday, all the presenters were so expert in their field. You know, Liran sharing the Google secrets to employee well-being with practical, easy to adopt tips. Hearing from Stuart and Des from their 20 years of running Thinkers 50. It was fascinating to hear what makes a great thinker from their perspective. That was insightful. And then the closing with Paul, and Paul's perspective with so many companies he's worked and researched and written about. He just had an accumulated knowledge of implementation that he was very generous in sharing.
Fantastic. Antonio, what stuck with you, if I may ask?
For me, what I liked from yesterday was the structure of the conference, because it's we all go to many conferences, but I think the participation is key, the reverse approach where we all learn from each other. It was great. Besides all what Robin just said, the speakers, the discussion, I think that's what I really enjoy. And it's not like we are always speaking, Robin and I, but the participation of everybody here in the call and sharing their views. They're all experts. So I really like the format, very inclusive, very engaging. So I look forward to sitting that today as well and learning as well, which is great for everyone. So it was a great session. I hope people that couldn't join, they can see the recording when it's shared. But yeah, great sessions, great content, great interaction. So looking forward to keeping the level today.
Fantastic. And gentlemen, for myself, I was actually struck by something that was put into the chat box. We had a participant by the name of Alex. I believe he might have been in the United Kingdom. And Alex had asked a question about the opposition between employee well-being and productivity. And I thought, what an absolutely brilliant question. Why would we maybe tend to think about productivity as being the opposite of employee well-being? And I think as Alex was guiding us to think, maybe they go hand in hand. So for me, that just really struck with me in the spirit of Stuart and Des, something that we may have thought one way, we can now think in another. So, well, good. Lots of great ideas. And why don't we get today underway? We are now at the point where we want to introduce the inaugural Implementation Awards. And if we actually step back and think about it, every year there are awards for best company to work for, or 40 under 40. Okay, there's all sorts of awards, but this year at the Great Implementation, we're going to see the inaugural awards for implementation. And we're going to, as the awards come out, highlight some of the companies who have been nominated, as well as see the cases, the examples that are offered by the award winners in 2023. And this is all part of a process of recognizing organizations that embody the strategy implementation roadmap. And you may remember Robin and Antonio's circle, which had ideas such as leadership excellence or value creation, or cultural evolution, tracking performance. What are the companies that are implementing particularly well and who embody these set of capabilities and values? And well, we're going to see the answer to that in just a moment. So with that introduction, Robin and Antonio, over to you. Can we begin with the inaugural awards?
Michael, what a wonderful introduction. Thank you. Can we say a special thank you to Michael? He stepped in at the last minute for us. Ricky was going to be our MC today, and unfortunately she's down with a virus. We wish her a speedy recovery. And Michael revisited his, as he said earlier, his radio broadcasting voice, which he does so well. So thank you, Michael, on behalf of Antonio and myself, for stepping up at the very last minute. We both appreciate that. And from everybody, you've done a great job kicking off today.
My pleasure.
And I'm delighted that for the first time, we're putting the spotlight on implementation awards, because as Michael said, we've talked and we've seen so many different, and Antonio and I, we showed you in the opening video, we share a passion to help the world get better at implementation and create implementation professionals. And when we were preparing to launch the Institute, it took us almost 3 years to pull together our thinking, our research, our analysis. We met up all over the world in different locations in London, Dubai, Singapore, and in Saudi and other places. And over that time, we developed the content around what we're looking at now, the strategy implementation roadmap. And the individuals and the companies that we've nominated are the ones that have excelled, not over the last 12 months, but over the last 3 years in this area. And we had a little fun in preparing for today. And we call our roadmap the Strategy Implementation Roadmap, that has the acronym SIR. And we thought, SIR, knighthoods. And we thought, well, you know, you go back to why was an individual knighted or somebody became a lady in the medieval days. And it was because they demonstrated values such as chivalry, honesty, bravery. And we thought that's very relevant to what we want to display in our awards. So we've picked up on the Sir and Lady, and we're using that as a little bit of a fun theme, but on a serious matter, to introduce the Sir Awards. And I'm a little bit biased, being Scottish, originally from Scotland, so I picked the image of Sean Connery being knighted. And today we were looking for individual and companies that demonstrate the modern values of responsibility, innovative, and conscientiousness, not just to their shareholder, but to their stakeholders and their community. So it is with great delight that Antonio and I kick off the launch of the inaugural awards in 2023. And we're going to ask the Sir or Lady to arise. And first of all, we would like to introduce the nominees, and then we're going to announce the winner. Antonio, sorry, I will go first, sorry. Let me give the 3 names first. So we have So-Young Kang from Gnobi, which is a Singapore company providing a learning app. And So-Young is the founder and CEO. The second individual is Ben Robinson, the CEO of RQAM. And the third is Badir Burshad, who is Armaco Program Director. So a little bit more about each of them.
Well, So-Young, unfortunately, she could not come today. I think she was in California. She's based in Singapore and California. I met her in the Peter Drucker Forum. We were speaking both in a panel about the importance of education. This is maybe 4 years ago, before the pandemic. And what I was impressed with her vision of bringing learning in a very different way. this micro learning, very small kind of a few minutes bites of information. And she had this business idea to create this company called Gnove, and she was talking about the importance of the future generations, the younger generations. They learn differently. And so I was very impressed with her talk, and they have developed this application, this platform, which is based really a very, very intuitive around thinking, applying, sharing. So it's a mix of social media, learning. And I thought, wow, this is impressive. This person has a strong vision. She was really ahead of the curve, and her company is now very successful around the world. So Robin and I thought that she brought something different. She had an idea which was disruptive, and she managed to implement it as a startup and grown that. So that's why she has made it to the short list of finalists, and it's really nice to hear her vision around education, the importance of continuous learning, even for more experienced people. It's unfortunate she could not be here, but definitely somebody to follow and somebody to learn from.
Our second nominee is the CEO of a company in Singapore called Raffles P Asset Management, abbreviated to RQAM. And anyone who's familiar or been to Singapore, they manage the commercial real estate overlooking the bay, their grade A premises. And Ben, as the CEO for the last 6-7 years, has taken the company and disrupted commercial real estate globally. In the past, landlords would look to rent the maximum space for the maximum time for the maximum price. Ben recognized that this was ripe for disruption. And he wanted to challenge that it's not just about maximizing money, it's about delivering value for customers. And he went on a journey. He rewrote the vision to disrupt the industry. And the vision was to create the workplace, community, and experience of the future with 6 key strategies over 5 years that you can see in the image that became what we call strategy on a page throughout the organization. The outcome was today, the business has changed completely. When new tenants come on board, they now don't need to take for example, a meeting room that is only for maybe once a week they use it or once a month, but they have a shared working area in one of the buildings, similar to a traditional working area, but it's done in a first-class airline lounge style. They also went from paper-based to completely digitalizing the business with not having maintenance offices anymore, but a central area driven by IoT. And when new tenants come on board, they're able to support them on their ESG goals. And we recommend Ben because he implemented this vision so successfully as the business continued to grow and develop and has done fantastically well.
And the last and third finalist is somebody I appreciate a lot. Badr Busrait, I met him through our good friend Sadi, who I know is in the call, Sadi Akra, and I've been following Badr, what he's done in KSR, and the passion that he shows and the level he has brought in terms of project management in the region. I think he has brought project management from almost zero to being one of the leading countries in the world with project management best practice. And so he has done that in different ways. I know in his organization, I think, Badr, you changed job, but I know you were working in Aramco, so recognition on best practice with awards there, then leading the project management institute from a very tiny community to one of the growing and biggest communities in the world. I'm just very impressed. Robin and I were looking at similar examples around the world, and we could not find any. So the third candidate, Badr Bussard, I know you're in the call, and so thank you for being here, and congratulations for being one of the three shortlisted candidates.
So it is now our delight to announce the winner. The reason they have won is they have demonstrated the implementation skills that are encompassed within the strategy implementation roadmap, not just for 12 months, but over a 3-year period. And
Brother.
And how about a congratulations for Badr?
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Badr. You deserve
Round
it.
of applause. Feel free to open your microphone.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Well, I have a new title now. I'm a sir, I guess.
You're a sir. You're a sir. Thank you, Badr.
You are knighted. Congratulations.
It's really great. I think the competition was very tough. The other two candidates were great.
Yeah.
But there's something more that you brought to it. So very well deserved.
I really appreciate this opportunity to be among this distinguished guests, and being awarded with this great award means a lot to me, to be honest. Things that you don't know, one of the best places that I ever visited is Scotland. So
thank you. That didn't influence the voting, honest.
Badr, would you mind just sharing a bit of what you've done, your vision? I think there's so much to learn from you. Would you take 15, 20 minutes to share with us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, let me just start. It's been an honor for me to have opportunity to participate in such prestigious event. I attended the first day, and it was really phenomenal. And being among distinguished guests like you guys and in the field of strategy implementation is an honor for me. I also want to express my gratitude for this invitation to speak about what we have done in PMI-KSA. And as you know, PMI-KSA chapter is a non-profit. And for us to have a strategy and implementation and creating value, it wasn't easy, because it's not about profit and losses, it's not about return on investment, it's something about making impact to the community and society. As you know, strategy implementation is a critical process to determine the success or failure of an organization and the strategic objective. It involves aligning process resources, people, processes, and most importantly, really the culture, which I will speak about it in my presentation, to make sure that the strategic goals of the organization is met. During my presentation, I will share with you some practical experiences. Really, it's not maybe the theory that you guys are really aware of, but I will tell you what was my insight, what I have done as my insight, what I did in the chapter, and how I highlight my key success factors, and what challenges actually we face, because that wasn't really an easy ride. And as you said, this is not done today or yesterday. It's been done for 3 years. Once I started with this organization, we took over the strategy, and that's something really we carried over throughout our life. As you said, Antonio, by the way, I'm still in Aramco. I'm a director in Saudi Aramco. And I'm now a secondee as a VP of strategy and programs at the Ministry of Interior. And it's really strategies all over me. I'm very passionate about the strategy, to be honest, because failure and success of the organization, it depends on the way they implement their strategies. If somebody can help me, I just want to share my presentation, but I really don't know how in the Zoom.
You're now
We need
co-host.
to make you co-host.
Yeah, I've done, Antonio. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So
Perfect.
you normally have a button called share screen. Father, at the bottom.
Yeah.
Share screen, and then you select you can do the desktop or just the PowerPoint.
What I mean, there is no share screen here. I could see what I can do. I can, Dr. Saadi, can I share it with you, the presentation, and you can maybe send it in the
Maybe
email?
that one. Yeah.
Yes, send it over. I'll share it from myself.
Yeah,
We'll make you co-host, Sadi.
Okay, done.
I'm using the web version. That's why I guess the share button
That's
is not
fine.
there. I send it to you, Dr. Saadi.
So, Betty, maybe I could ask you a question just while it's traveling over. Maybe you could share from your experience, which is tremendous in the world of implementation, if you had to select one recommendation or tip to other leaders, what they could do differently to be more successful in implementation, because we still have more failing than succeeding, what would that recommendation be?
If it is one word, I would say the engagement. It's very crucial to have an engagement within the organization. I will share that. In my presentations. You could have the best presentation ever, and you have the best processes and the best resources. But if you don't have the engagement, if you don't have this collaboration between the society or the organizations, this strategy will be really doomed. And that's what I say to the team.
Shukran, thank you.
Okay, can I control this? Can I move the slide myself?
Sadi will do it for you.
Okay, then Dr. Saadi, if you can move next. I'm not going to bore you with the very long presentations. I'm not, this is all about me. I've been in the business of project management almost more over my professional life, more than 20 years. I'm a graduate from King Fahd University, Petroleum Mineral and Mechanical Engineering. I've been very lucky to be named the PMO Leader of the Year in 2020 with the PMO Global Alliance. And in Saudi Arabia, I'm being nominated to be the top 10 most influential executive leader in Saudi Arabia. Next.
And now the winner of the inaugural implementation award.
Really, I'm the sir now. I call myself Sir Badr from now on. I need the sword though. Well, before we started back in June in 2020. That was really the heat of the pandemic and what have you. And the first thing that I really was thinking of with the team, and that's where I said the engagement is important. We stayed with my team and PMI KSA chapter almost 3 months, doing nothing but come up with our mission and vision, what would be our strategies, and each strategies, what would be the goals and initiative will be linked to it. And that's honestly, I think, is the most single important aspect of our success as a chapter, because we did not work haphazardly. If you follow us and LinkedIn, use a lot of activities that we have done to the chapter and the community that was not done haphazardly. That was really strategized back in June, specifically June 2020. So we have a vision, crafted the vision to be the leading professional institution for project management advocacy in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. How we can be an advocate for the profession and for the professionals in Saudi Arabia. Next. And for that, we established several strategic goals. We said one of them is we lead the community development. We train and qualify institute members with full financial support, meaning is that we have developed certification program that's normally paid. And we come up with volunteering activities to spread the knowledge and share that professionals and the knowledge of project management and certification among the community. We build support and marketing for other chapters in the MENA region. So we do not work alone. We really collaborate not only in Saudi Arabia, but outside. And we really went deep into the community in terms of ministries and government institutions, in terms of private sectors, and also in education institutions. We have collaboration with more than 6 universities within Saudi Arabia. We expand the partnership and relationship with the community. We have more than 90 organizations, leading organizations in the community, to have a collaboration of sharing knowledge, participate in an event, participate in development of research and project management. So far, we published around 65 papers and project management through that collaboration, through that really partnership with the community. That never done before. Third is we reinvented the membership experience and benefit. We said, what is in it for the members to be part of this society? What can we deliver to them as added value, as a return investment for them? And we come up with a lot of initiative really to make sure that we deliver the value, we engage with the members, and also create volunteering opportunities. When I started in June 2020, I really wanted part of my team, 5 or 6 individuals to be volunteering with me. And when I opened the opportunities for volunteering, I have more than 600 of PhD holders, of engineers, of doctors, and for students want to participate. I only could accommodate 150 at a time. But the thing is that the most revelation thing for me is that how really fascinating that people want to contribute and want to volunteer from their own time for the greater good, for the greater cause. Next, Mr. Sadi. Dr. Sadi, next. Yeah, and to make sure that our business, can you go back, please? To make sure that our business is not one-off, we make sure that we need to have a sustainable chapter activities. And we have, and being connected to the community, we have developed, reinvented magazine called Shur. Shur in Arabic is projects. So we created a magazine to be connected to the community. We developed a global project management forum. That project management forum, really, it was one of a kind. I have no experience whatsoever in building forums at that magnitude. Actually, initially last year, I wanted to establish it with the size of 800 people, individuals, really, at that size, our size. However, the registration was 5,000 of professionals all around the globe want to participate. This year, as of today, we have more than 6,000 want to participate from 80 countries. It's not from Saudi Arabia or the Gulf region, the MENA region. It is all over the place. 80 countries are participating in our event. And that shows you how value we are really contributing and delivering to the chapter. And then we thought, okay, how we can celebrate success, how we can share our success stories among the professionals. And we created the Global Project Excellence Award for individuals and also for the organization. And we never left the most important sector of our community, which is the women and the youth. And just a matter of fact, more than half of my board are really women. And they are almost more than 10 women leaders in the chapter. So we did not just have them as a woman and bragging that we have a female participation, but also we equip those women to be leaders. In fact, we send them to programs with INSEAD for leadership and women in the business, and they all being graduated from that program. So we equip them with the knowledge needed to lead the chapter to the greater good. We increase the community engagement, be it in the social media, be it in our engagement with the society and the meetings with them, to listen to them, because these strategies were not going to work if you don't have a feedback from the community. And we're creating a social impact as much as we could, making sure that we are participating in the social causes. and providing link between us and the society. We visited children's societies for cancers and providing them with books and with toys, and we give them some basic knowledge of project management. We said to them, project management is not building necessarily buildings or facilities. Doing your own homework could be a project, and that in a way that we can connect really to make an impact on a social level. Next, Mr. Saadi. Now, this may not be really the theory of strategy implementation, and I really apologize if I mess things up, but this is the real practical elements or pillars that we depended on for us to succeed in our strategy. First, we have come up with a process. What will be the strategies? How we make sure those strategies are implemented? We made actually a KPI to make sure at every strategy that we do, because we have assisted strategies. Each strategy has goals, and these goals are supported by initiatives. And what we did, and every single week we met as a board. This is the previous board, they really met 2 times, 3 times a year. For us, so far, I met in every week and every month and every year. So we met more than 70 meetings with the board, just to make sure that every strategy we put, we have a KPI to make sure that the benefit realization and the implementation of those strategies are really met as we desire. And if you go next to the next item, which is desire to strategy, you need to have a desire, not just for having a written strategy that's put it on the wall and that's it. No, you need to have a desire to change. You need to have a desire to make strategy that make an impact to the society. And that will not be done without engagement within the board and within the community, as I explained earlier. We made sure every single week we engage with our volunteers, we engage with our board members to make sure that are we in the right track? Do you have any opinion? And we communicate all these strategies internally and with the volunteers, but also with our partners, telling them this is our strategies, this is our goals, this is our objectives. And if you have anything to guide us to be better at, we are very agile to change. And as I said, all of these communication and engagement and the processes, we need to focus on outcome. Every strategy, it has to have an outcome. If you don't have that outcome, then there is no implementation of it. It's just a word, right? And as I said earlier, we learn and adapt. Because these strategies, it's not like written in stone. I mean, we put the strategy back in June 2020, but we are agile. We learn from our challenges, and we learn from the opportunities, and we adapt to it. And that will be done only through collaborations between all the societies and setting the expectations of what needs to be done at every single strategy that we do. And at every milestone that we achieve, I make sure I celebrate success. In fact, I celebrate the success and recognize the volunteers every single week within the chapter board. Next, Dr. Saadi. This is how we develop our elements on our strategy implementation. As I said, maybe this is not be the rightful theoretical process, but this is what we have done, honestly. As I said to you, we took a very good time, almost 3 months, to develop the mission and vision. Then we set clear, specific goals, and we make sure all of our leaders have the commitment of effective leadership, the commitment to make sure to deliver in the result. And that we have to equip them with the resources, be it financial, the human capital, the technology, because you cannot do it alone. You need tools really to make these strategies are implemented in the right way. So therefore, we develop an organization chart, that be it with the membership experience, the volunteer experiences, the partnership, and the training and development. And as I said, every week we go, monitor, evaluate, check and adjust, and we have a continuous improvement of any gaps that we might face in the future as we go. Next, Iqtisadi. So as I said, I mean, we check the studies of why strategy is important, why we develop a strategy, why don't we just go without having a strategies. And all these studies shows that without a strategy, there is a lot of values will be lost going forward with the organization, whether it's a non-profit organization or even a profit organization, like what I'm doing right now. So there is so much of importance of losing value or not even implementing a strategy at all if you don't have implementation process. Next, Sadi. So during our way of strategy implementation, we face challenges. And those challenges really took us the time to develop the right strategy. One of the reasons of the challenges that we face is lack of clarity. We need to have a clear set of strategies and a clear means of implementation before we even start. We need to have a mechanism to cope up with the resistance to change. People have never been thought of dealing with these changes that we brought because they thought as a non-profit organization is just a cool thing. It's good to have. Actually, I dealt with PMI KSA as a profit organization. I dealt with them as a real business. The reason is our members and our volunteers expect high from us. So I cannot just take it as good to have. I take it as something that I need to have the change, a positive change in the organization, a positive change for the community. And inadequate planning. As I said to you earlier, when I say inadequate planning, that's taken into two parts. One is the processes, what have you, and also about the resources. We have to equip our board the resources they need to deliver. And I said to you, I'm meeting with my board every single week is to make sure that we adjust in any poor execution, because when we have good strategy and good implementation processes, but if we have challenges in execution, that's something really need to take care of. And lack of alignment. That's why I'm meeting very frequently with my team, just to make sure that we align in our objectives and in our strategies as well. Next, Iqtisadi. So why it matters to build a strategy for non-profit organization? Because people would say there is no return of investment, there is no losses in a profit. And the answer is yes. However, the strategies is really important for a profit organization for the four elements that I mentioned. One, providing directions to everyone, internally and externally, of the chapter. Second is maximizing impact. You cannot just maximize impact by haphazard efforts. It has to have a strategy and strategy implementation for those elements to be shown and should have that impact being visible. Third is build the trust within the community and within the volunteers that we are going with a really robust process to build up our activities. And fourth is increasing the organization efficiency. And just a matter of fact, in our efficiency, for the last 5 years of the chapter, the increase on the members, for example, as a number, it's been increased by between 10 to 25%. Within just 2 years, our members have increased not 20 to 30%, have not increased in 50%, have not increased in 90%. They have been increased in 190%. So that shows you really the impact that we are doing to the chapter. Next. And this is not really in the chapter. This is really regionally in Saudi Arabia. For the Vision 2030, we did not see the light if we don't have a strategy implementation roadmap. For example, we are really want to transform our non-revenue from oil in Saudi Arabia by almost 4.3% in 2020. We want to have generation of power by 50% for renewable, not from oil. We want to increase our tourism by 7%. And we want to increase the women participation by 16%. Now it's really 23% in 2020. Next, Dr. Saadi. So that's really from the global perspective in Saudi Arabia. And this is where we established a lot of programs and the strategic partnership, be it the PMO, the dialogue program, the college outreach program that we have done. We participated in PM Book as well. We created the Global Project Management Forum. In fact, we collaborated with PMI Global to establish a new certification for construction. And really, we developed to be really supported to the universities and been having partnership with the universities. We come up with a PM Challenge, Project Management Challenge initiative, that we shared it with the universities. The intention really is to have the mindset of the student thinking of strategy and project management as a solution for their problems. Next. And this is PMI by numbers, and I think everybody knows about it because PMI is really huge organizations. And we are really one of the 308 chapters. And really, we've been aspired to be one of the integral or most important chapter in the PMI who deliver value to the organization. Next. So this is where we are celebrating success. This is where we are gathering with the members and volunteers and sharing our initiative, sharing our achievement every single year. Next. So what is it that, how we can measure your implementation of your strategy is by numbers. If you don't have these numbers, it's really something just out of advocacy, but not really reflected on numbers. As a result of our engagement and our push to support our strategy implementation, we reach really with the government to support our certification program. In fact, we had 6 certifications from PMI being fully sponsored by the government. So any national of Saudi Arabia, if he want to go to these 6 certifications, be it PMP, RMB, and others, if he passes the exam, the government of Saudi Arabia will fund him 100%. And the outcome of that initiative, it was phenomenal, really. Saudi Arabia is a small country compared to the rest of the world. Yet the impact of that small country is really huge. And and that's reflected in the numbers in front of you. For example, in the RMP certification, Saudi Arabia is #1 in the world per capita compared to the rest of the world. And the PMFP, we are #2 in the world. And the scheduling procedure, course certification, we are the 2nd in the world compared to India, China, or United States. If you compare the huge population in Saudi Arabia, we are really in the elite of number of certificates from our professionals in the world. And that shows you how much value the chapter is providing to the community. We are being seen as a leader and granting the certification from PMP, from PMI. Next. So just tell you in numbers. In Saudi Arabia, we have more than 1,600 certified members, and that's the value of our achievement in Saudi Arabia. We have more than 20 women in leadership position. We have more than 36,000 professionals in Saudi Arabia, and we have more than 100 posts. In fact, our social media started from 0 in June 2020, and we are very proud that we exceeded 100,000 followers just in 3 years time. We have really recognizing more than 100 volunteers every week. Actually, we recognize our volunteers for the achievement, and we conducted more than 60 free webinars and workshops. And by the way, since we started from June 2020 until now, we have done all of our webinars and workshops all free of charge to our beloved members and volunteers. And that would not be done with our partnership with the community. If you can go next, Dr. Saadi. And this is our partner in success. We partners with the rest of the community in Saudi Arabia. And as I said, I have more than 90 organizations. It will not fit a slide here of our success partners, really, and our journey, because we cannot do it alone. In fact, our slogan is together we excel, and together, be it with the society, with the volunteers and members, we excelled as a whole. Thank you so much, and I apologize if this presentation took longer than expected. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Badr. I just great. I think it's just very, very interesting for everyone, just looking at your journey, how you set the strategy, how you build processes around, which I can recognize very much with the strategy implementation roadmap. And it seems easy, but I know it's hard work. And I know how much time you put there together. I had the pleasure to be there last year together with Dr. Sadi in the event, and I've not seen many events like yours in the world. So congratulations for what you've done. And there's just a couple of questions, then we'll move to the next award. Two questions here, if you don't mind, Badr. Laurie, thank you for joining us. Can you just share your questions with Badr?
Antonio, Sir Badir.
Oh, Sir Badr, sorry.
You know, I will go to my mother and wife. I will say to them, I'm Sir now, so don't call me back.
Good luck with implementing that plan.
Laurie, are you there, or we just read your question?
It's okay. I'm here. Hi, everyone. Hi, Antonio.
Hi,
Laurie is one of our board members and helped us establish the Institute. Laurie, wonderful to have you with us. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks, and I'm happy to be here. So, Badir, I think you keep mentioning this. I'm just curious about, because we're with you in terms of globally, and then Saudi in particular, because we're working globally and in Saudi, that the whole thing is people. You know, we can have these amazing strategies, but all the points, I don't want to repeat what you've said, but the whole role clarity, alignment, and really getting everyone, all the stakeholders pulling together and understanding and collaborating together. So in Saudi, because again, we have cultural subtleties, you know, across the world. What are some of the things that you've done at a very concrete level? Just some examples of things. I know you've mentioned building trust, but if you just drill it down to a few more concrete things, how might you, when you bring these stakeholders together, how do you reach out to them? What kind of activities did you find work best in a Saudi context to get alignment?
Sure. Well, when getting alignment with the organization and societies, you need to really have talk with them and listen to them and learn from their pain point and for their point on, and also for the opportunities. And this is not really theoretical. And what I did, I have continuous engagement with the committee. In fact, last week I had really good engagement with the Ministry of Investment, for example. And people could say, why project management have involved with the Ministry of Investment? They have a lot of projects in the community, and they want our help, and they want to listen to us and how to strategize their portfolios. As you know, Vision 2030 is nothing but projects in all the ministries, and everybody doesn't have one project or two. They have really portfolio and projects. And what we did with them is we sat with them, and we have a series of workshops, not only Ministry of Investment and the rest of the organizations. We have series of events where we collaborated with them in terms of strategy development. We reviewed with them also their strategy as well, and have them part of our forums, like the Global Project Management Forum. It has more than, I think, 15 or 16 organizations participating. When I say participating, it's not only attending the event, but co-developing this initiative and this forum. This forum is nothing but initiative that connecting all these organizations together to build that society and the ecosystem for the success of the implementations. And and when it comes to the people side, it's really important is to have, when I said to you the challenges with the universities that we developed with them, certification that we developed with the PMIs and others, it's really important to give them the opportunities to have access to the certifications, have access to the knowledge hubs available, and also give access to the professionals and expert and the forum GPMF, I'm bringing more than 70 global leaders all over the place to come and solve problems of the strategy and project management to the society. And we're going to do this throughout the 3 days. And that's something that we thought is really useful for us to be engaged with the community. They see the value of us. It's just not a talk.
So it's actually,
I hope I answered the question.
no, that's amazing. So it's solving problems together, co-creation, and really engaging them, not just talking to them, but actually getting them involved. That's great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Great question, great answer, Badr, Sir Badr. We have another question, but we're going to tackle that a bit later because we want to do the next recognition in the corporate award. So Maurice, we'll get back to your question in the next session. Thank you for that, and again, congratulations to Badr or Sir Badr for the achievement. So next one.
Yeah, so thank
Robbie.
you. And I just want to say, Sir Badr, not only for congratulations, Mubarak, on winning, but also for taking the time to join us and share that knowledge, which is so critical and part of the value of the Institute. So again, once again, thank you and congratulations. It's
My
now
honor.
my delight and pleasure to announce the nominees for the Corporate Award shortlist. And this is based on the same that we looked at organizations who have achieved success over 3 years, so they consistently demonstrate their ability to implement around the strategy implementation roadmap. We then have 3 who we have shortlisted. The first one is DBS, which is a bank in Singapore. And let me just highlight that at this stage, I backed off the nominees because some of you will know I wrote the book on DBS, the world's best bank. So, you know, but when they reached the shortlist, so I stepped away from the final one on that. The second company, and thank you for joining us this afternoon, is the Haier Group out of China, who've done phenomenal transformation over the last 10 years. And if you're not familiar with them, you need to, because they've rewritten the book, not only on implementation, but the way we structure from vertical to horizontal organizations. And the third is L'Oreal, who have demonstrated a unique ability over the last 3 years in the field of implementation. So let me dive a little bit deeper, introduce the 3 nominees. DBS Bank is one of the key banks in Singapore who have a message to their customers: live more, bank less. Now, you don't want us to bank with you? So even when they launched this, there was a little bit of confusion. But what they're saying to their customers is, we don't want you to spend your time having to run to branches, do transactions, fill in forms. We want you to live more, and the banking becomes almost invisible by leveraging technology. They have won the world's best bank now for 5 years in a row. And the CEO, Piyush Gupta, who's led the bank since 2009, is delighted that it's once again put Singapore in the spotlight in terms of, you know, having the leading financial bank or leading bank, and people looking and to find out what they did. The strategy for the bank was about making banking joyful. And again, what does that mean? I mean, you go Disneyland, that's joyful. Banking has never been considered joyful. But in 2014, the leaders were discussing that banking is considered painful. And out of that insight was born the strategy that if it's painful, then let's do the opposite and make it joyful and leverage technology to make that happen. And last slide is that they drove 3 strategies around the digital to the core, becoming customer obsessed, and changing their culture. Okay. So congratulations to the nominee. The second nominee,
Yeah, so L'Oreal, I think you all know this brand. And so one thing that we noticed when we were looking at different companies was L'Oreal has to put in place one of the most difficult challenges that we see in implementation, which is basically transform while you're successful. Companies transform when they're in urgency, when they're in a crisis. But one thing that personally, I had the pleasure to work with L'Oreal for the last year or so and learn more about how they are embracing transformation as part of their core business. And this is not just a team of transformation office. This is embraced by the executive committee and the CEO, and this is being cascaded, and teams are being formed and trained. And so when you deep dive a bit more into L'Oreal, they were one of the first ones that adopted digital transformation, introduction of artificial intelligence. When you look at what they're here for, they have a clear higher purpose, in not just in terms of beauty, but also in terms of sustainability. So what I think the main reason for us to put L'Oreal on the short list was that understanding and transformation has to be done even if you're successful. Even if we are one of the most successful companies in the beauty space, you need to keep changing. And this is one of the most difficult things, right? We know that people are not used to change when things go well. They are going that direction. So that's one of the main reasons why they're on the top 3 of our ranks.
And our third nominee is from the Haier Group, HQ out of China, who have a global presence. And over the years, 100 years ago, we were all talking about Ford, and then it was GM, then it was Toyota, then a few years ago it was Spotify. Today, it's very much Haier is setting the standard of implementation around the world. For those who are maybe not so familiar with them, they're the leading global appliance maker. They became a decentralized distributed network of 4,000 micro enterprises. In English, what does that mean? They rewrote their business model that each micro enterprise had its own P&L so that they could respond faster and quicker to customers. So they have a motto of zero distance to their customer. To do that, they got rid of middle management and have become a pioneer in both organizational and customer-centric innovation. One of the products they're very well known for is they're not just fridges, but they're smart fridges. And in 2005, they launched the Rendenhai model. And so far, Harvard have published education case study collection includes 29 different cases all about the Rendenhai model. And they are also the global top 30 business schools. Sorry, the global top 30 business schools have included 66 case articles. So they really have become a global benchmark. And just to give you a feel what Rendenhai is all about, in the culture, it's going from being a corporate is the boss to the user is the boss. Play not to lose to playing to win. Reacting to the competition to leading the competition. Focusing on your product and price? No, it's about solutions and customer experience. From being risk averse to being open to culture of experimentation and shifting employees from just doing what they're told to building fridges to being entrepreneurs and creative and innovative in the way they work. And Zhang Ruimin, the founder, chairman, and CEO, says adopting our model requires giving up powers, including decision-making, hiring and firing, and setting compensation. You must delegate all those powers to the micro enterprises themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we would like to anoint the Sir or Lady, and the winner is...
Wow.
Oh, congratulations. Round of applause.
Well, nice, very nice. It was really, really difficult choice here on who, because they're all top companies. They're all changing the way we look at organizations. But I think that part of embracing transformation as part of the core business, it's something that is not easy applying, especially for a big corporation like L'Oreal. Congratulations. We have one of the key members of this success, one of the visionary in L'Oreal, and I'm very pleased to announce that. I know Karima Hamadouche for a few years, and I'm very impressed how they're driving and the impact they're making. Everybody talks about it in such a large organization, and it's not usual. In Europe, we're not so agile like the two other companies that were in the list, who are born in agility, right? In China, in Singapore. In Europe, it takes much more effort. We are more in a comfort zone. So achieving that new culture, it's even more difficult. And just here, Karima and a few people said we need to change that. So I'm very, very pleased, Karima, that you could make a bit of time, 5-10 minutes here, just to share a bit your experience. And again, congratulations to you and to the team, because it's very well deserved.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Antonio. It's nice to see everybody. And I have to say, I was very impressed by Sir Bader presentation earlier. It was very interesting. So I have to say, I'm just a humble part of this of the team. The Chief Transformation Officer of the group is he's my boss, is Mathieu Serre, who could not be with us today. And you're right, Antonio, it's something new for us. Just a few years ago, nobody looked at transformation as a global unified object at L'Oréal. It's fairly recent. We started in 2021. And not only it's recent, but it's also new compared to the DNA of the group. L'Oréal is not as processed a company as maybe other groups are. And so it's quite new to try and have a unified approach. So we try to stay within the DNA of L'Oréal, which is to seize what starts, to be reactive, to keep speed, maintain speed and momentum, while facing the fact that we are growing. The pace of change and transformation is increasing. And the way we apply the strategy of the group is through projects and programs. So we really embrace transformation in that sense. And so our objective, the objective of the Transformation Office, which I'm a part of, is to realize that the need for transformation is there, whether it's because of the digital evolution, because AI is coming, because we have a huge ambition towards sustainability. We have to be even better in the way we know our consumers. We have to seize new markets. So there's a lot of different initiatives going on, which is what makes us hopefully the number one in the beauty sector. But we have to be mindful also of two things. The first one is we have to have the right project at the right time, and be mindful of the workload that these projects and these implementations generate for the teams. Every year we look at satisfaction survey from the teams, and this is a topic that is very high level in the sense of what is in the mind of the people everywhere in the company. So if there is one common thread to all of those transformation, the strategy that we have, and which is very clear for the CEO of the group, is to simplify. is to simplify and create time and really focus on the tasks that will help us, the tasks and the value that will help us be future fit and continue being ready for the world that comes. So a key driver is simplicity. And so what we, very humbly, what we try to do at the Transformation Office, and again, thank you for recognizing this work. As I said, we are a small team and L'Oréal is a complex group. So we work really by influence. We work with representatives for each zones, divisions, functions to create first a common vision of what are the transformation initiatives that are in place. And just a few months ago, it was not shared and visible for everybody. So it's a huge undertaking, but it's going to really help and simplify. We work on common methodologies. We help the people who drive these projects by sharing as much best practices as we can, creating a sense of community, recognizing the work that they do. And lastly, to create the conditions to select the right projects. We suffer, we have many smart people, many engaged teams, and everybody has a great project, has a great reason to do something. There's only so much that we can absorb in a certain amount of time. So the topic of selecting and prioritizing is also something new for us, but absolutely key to continue. So that's the, I'm very happy that's the work of the Transformation Office, to create the conditions for the visibility, to help the people who run these projects to be absolutely at the best of their game, and to give the general management the keys and the right information to make the right prioritization. So we only started, and I have to say, Antonio, we've read your books, we read your articles, and they've been a great source of influence and inspiration. So we will continue in that direction, and the rest is yet to come.
Thank you, Karima. It's great hearing your vision and super humble as well, because it's really a huge impact. We work with so many companies, but I don't come across very often what you've done really in such a big company. So really deserve this, and just looking forward to continue watching this journey and see where it leads in a couple of years. But I think it's remarkable, and it's worth maybe a book. Why not, about L'Oréal way? We'll see. But really, thank you for being that. Congratulations again for you, to Mathieu, to the whole team.
Lady
We'll send
L'Oréal.
the awards
for a lot of people.
I'm just to you. Sorry,
thank you so much.
Karima,
I'm
go
just
ahead.
a representative. Huh? I'm just a representative. It's really for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
I'll be happy to share the news, and the work that you're doing, Antonio, is really looked in high regards within the group. So it means a lot.
Thank you, Karima. We'll send you the awards, Sir Badr and Karima. It's a nice trophy. In 20
Fantastic.
years, it will be remembered, as you were the first ones to receive that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm sorry I have to go
Congratulations.
because we have so many other meetings
Yes.
today, but it was really nice being in your company.
Thank you, Karima. Okay. Wow, I'm excited.
All right, shall we hand back over to Michael?
All right, fantastic, appreciate it. And we've had now both of our awards, inaugural awards. So well, we've got to wait 2 more years for these, is that correct?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, all right. So at this point, for Robin and Antonio, for you, as we heard from Badr and as also from L'Oréal, what were, from your expert points of view, really the prime points that you took away, or what stood out about the case that they provided for us?
in the research we did, Michael, in identifying not just the winners, but in the shortlist for the nominees, there was one very strong consistency that came through, which was around the passion that they demonstrated for the journey they were on. And all of us know in implementation, it does take that extra effort. And I think we saw it in both Sir Badir and Lady Oriel, that you could see the passion, and it came from the heart as well as the mind to deliver the excellence over the 3 years.
Fantastic. Antonio, what stood out for you?
I think that determination. Oh, it looks like sometimes strategies, ideas look impossible, and when you hear Sir Bader talking about what they wanted to achieve, and say, "Come on, this is impossible," but there's a determination that they just push, and they're convinced, and with their convincing, they convince other, and they create that critical mass to go for it, and then they build excitement, and they don't give up. And I know the story of Bader, I know the story of L'Oreal, and it's not like it's easy. I don't know how many challenges they face, but they keep pushing, and that what makes it remarkable. I would say 99% of the time you say, okay, let's stop it and we'll do something else. But no, these people, all the 6 shorted list companies in the US, they have pushed through the difficult times, and in the end, that's where you get the implementation done as well.
Interesting. And for me, listening to both of you, Sir Bader had shared how implementation continues.
I'm getting used to this title now.
You're getting used to this. This works for you, right?
That's dangerous.
We'll email
Now
your
go to the
kids
office and
later.
say-
Well, you jumped in. What stood out for me is how you continue to talk about how the implementation continues even after the work is done, the celebration or the rewards. And if we've been reading any of the books in the business press this last year or two, the importance of that celebration, and just the neurochemicals that are released and the bonding that happens between people, really important to being able to build a sustained implementation habit. So I was really, really pleased to see how you highlighted that a couple of times in your deck. So thank you for that. Thank you. Well, if I am correct, Robin, we have a 15-minute segment coming up. Does that sound about right?
Yep, 2 of them.
2 of them.
Okay. Michael, you want to say anything, or would you like me?
Dive right in. Dive right in. So these are just our co-founders, Robin and Antonio, are going to sort of complement what the award winners have shared with a couple of recent gems from their own work and research. So Robin, over to you.
Thank you, Michael. And once again, congratulations to Badir and L'Oreal for being our inaugural winners. We would like to now spend the final session of our 2-day conference. Antonio and I would like to use this opportunity to share implementation post-pandemic in 2023. A lot has changed since our first conference in 2021. And in just 2 years, we've radically shifted. And as you can see from the screen, we now very much live in a digital world. And what we would like to do now is something a little bit different for a conference. Our final session is going to be accumulating everything we've talked about over the 2 days, and it's going to be published as a white paper from the Institute on how you achieve great implementation. And there are 3 steps in this. The first step is I'm going to share an update of thinking for implementation in 2023, and very much from a digital perspective. And that will take maybe about 13 or 14 minutes. So it's going to be short and sharp. Then Antonio's going to do the same thing. He's going to share from his perspective, his updated material that you've not seen. And this is not included in our strategy implementation professional course. So this is new content. And then we're going to ask you in a breakout to discuss and share what you feel contributes to a great implementation, the theme of our conference. So here we go. For the last 9 years, I've shifted very much from focusing on implementation just as strategies, but into implementation in a digital world. And it's horrific to see to this day that 1 in 3 digital transformations succeed, meaning, of course, 2/3 fail, which is why part of the other reason we started the awards to highlight those who succeed. And this 1 in 3 comes from one of my companies, Bridges, but also from BCG, McKinsey, IBM, and others. And in our research over the last 20 years, you can see that we were steadily improving in strategy implementation. And initially the failure rate 20 years ago was 90%. And then in 2020, for the first time ever, more implementations succeeded of strategy than failed. But then something happened. In a digital world, as you just saw, it got harder. And for the first time in over 20 years, our research has revealed we're getting worse instead of better at strategy implementation, which of course for Antonio and I running the Institute is alarm bells ringing. So we continue our passion and our mission to guide organizations. So my short few slides are going to say, well, what does it take? And many companies today are moving from being traditional to a digital mindset. And that embraces 6 key shifts. So the first one is we've seen in the last 2 years a shift from profit to stakeholder value. What's the difference? After the Business Roundtable in 2019, it's been embraced by CEOs around the world that we're not in business to make a profit for our shareholder, but to deliver value to stakeholders. That means we have a responsibility for our community that we work in, towards sustainability and building a better world for tomorrow, in looking after our employees, which is why we featured Google and employee well-being, about looking after our customers and our focus on them. We've moved from controlling to empowerment. Gone are the days of telling people what to do, the command and control of the 20th century, to empowerment, where we want to encourage, guide employees, where we build the psychological safety, where they feel they can experiment and take risk. Finally, we found the solution to breaking down silos as we move to platforms and ecosystems, and we use data and customer journey mapping to bring different departments together, so they're having a shared ambition and shared goals and shared measurement. So we've finally broken down the silos, and we've moved from planning to experimentation. So no longer are we looking at 12-month planning ahead, but we're working on quarterly cycles with quarterly budgets, no more 12-month budgeting either. And it's very much about coming up with a minimum viable product rather than a perfect solution. Penultimately, we've gone from being product-centric to the customer-obsessed. What's the difference? We've always said we want to provide great customer service, but now we have new tools, new methodologies to really get close to our customer, using data, using customer journey mapping, solving their problems through hackathons and design thinking. We've really now got closer to our customers, and we can really be customer obsessed. And the final is we've gone from tweaking our business to whole business transformation. So it's not about applying what we call digital lipstick, which is just about improving your app or improving your website. It's about every part of the business transforming. The operations, the support, the front end. It's about everyone coming together, changing our systems, our structure, our culture. So it's a tremendous and a big shift. So in the second and final part of what I'd like to share in the new thinking of implementation to succeed, and we called this conference Hands-on Tips. So I'm going to share 8 successful tips from the 1 in 3 who succeed. Here we go. The first one is, to succeed, you need to eliminate the confusion. So many employees are confused about which direction, what's important, where do we focus? How do we do this? By aligning all employees with a meaningful digital ambition. A digital ambition is, what does digital mean to our organization? So for example, we saw in 2 of our nominees, RQAM, digital meant to them leveraging Internet of Things, building sensors around their buildings, building it more efficiently, building an app where they could bring communities of tenants together. Whereas in DBS, digital for them in the next few years, the predominant area is very much around AI and blockchain. So what is your company's digital ambition? And then you must get alignment around that ambition. To succeed, you need to blow up bureaucracy and paper. We need to get rid of those signatures and the SOA, the standard operating procedures, and the SLAs, so we can work faster and respond quicker. And another of our nominees, Hired, this was their goal. They blew up the middle management. They created micro enterprises. So where is the bureaucracy that slows down your employees delivering value to your customers? To succeed, we need to eliminate non-value meetings. Oh, so many people, you're nodding your head, even though I can't see everyone today. We spend too much time in meetings that add no value. You don't even know why you're there, or they don't have a set agenda. When we eliminate the meetings, people are freed up to focus on digital technologies and methodologies. An example from DBS, in their digital journey at the start, they asked the question, what's the biggest obstacle to successfully transforming to digital? The number one was too many meetings. And they created a governance that they call Mojo, Meeting Organizer and Joyful Observer, to allow them to run more efficient and successful meetings. To succeed, you need to eliminate the silos. I already mentioned it prior, I'll reinforce it again. Finally, we can break down that silo mentality by bringing everyone together with a unified purpose, not uniform, unified. So it's not about doing exactly the same way in every department, company, and culture, but it's about having a unified approach. We're all heading in the same direction. To succeed, you need to stop predominantly focusing on the technology And many of us in the last 12 months have realized this. It's about a balanced and equal measure of empathetic creativity and technological prowess with a dose of tenacity. So what do I mean by that? We've got to balance it. We've got to find that human touch, the creativity and the innovation while leveraging the technology. And to succeed, you need to stop expecting more without training our employees. We're all going back to school, and we have to reskill, reallocate, and re-energize our employees. And the leading organizations have recognized this. And one of our board members who's on our call today, Laurie, does some excellent work in this field in recognizing that people, how can we get them back to school? We're all learning how to run different activities. What is an algorithm to do our coding? How to leverage machine learning? What is AI? Finally, to succeed, you need to stop relying on intuition and start using your data. The companies that succeed in the next 4 years are the ones that are going to be data-driven. A simple motto: the better the data, the better the decisions. And you need a data-driven operating model so that you can leverage the decisions you're making. And finally, you need to stop relying on legacy leadership. One of the top 3 reasons why digital transformation fails from our research of 1,800 leaders is leaders' mindset. They complain, employees complain, hey, I had to print out because they didn't know how to log in to see the dashboard. They didn't trust the numbers. We had to show them. We had to go around, running around, getting signatures. So we have to drive performance and innovation by all leaders, being crystal clear about digital ambition and the right employee actions to transform. So I'm going to ask a favor. Please take a picture of the screen, because I'm going to hand over to Antonio in just a moment. Antonio is going to share his thoughts on implementation for great implementation. And then we're going to ask you to discuss within your breakout. So just use your mobile, take a picture of the screen so you've got it for the breakouts. And these are 8 tips that really how the 1 and 3 exceed where the 2/3 fail. So that's from my perspective. Antonio, what would you like to share?
Okay, I've put a few slides together as well with some key takeaways. I think that would make a big difference. So I want to start with this one, which is a quote I got from somebody who was the chief editor of Harvard Business Review. He told me, Ignatius, your projects are your future. And I couldn't agree more with his statements, but I told him also, you cannot imagine how badly companies manage their future, right? Because they have way too many projects. They don't know really how to manage them. They're not good at it. There's some exceptions. And you saw the exceptions today in the award list, in the short list of companies and individuals. They are able to manage and select what are the priorities and implement it. So just a couple of thoughts to build on what Robin said more on the digital transformation. My points are coming more from the project world. I think this is a key one. So I think knowing when to start an initiative, a project, is a key factor in success. And what research says and my personal experience is we start projects way too early. We have an idea, and then we start already staffing it. We have governance around it. We develop some documents, and we don't really know what we want. So a tool that I developed together with an expert in the S curve. It's called Whitney Johnson. We work an article on HBR where we tried to apply a model that if you launch a project at the bottom of your S curve, the risk of failure is very, very high. And the key is knowing when to start and also which tools to do. You don't need to use just project management. You can use Agile, Lean Startup, Scrum, many different tools to develop an idea and make it into value creation. So this is just a small tool that it helps organizations to decide when to start a project. If the sooner on the left, we're not ready. And just a great example, the idea of creating the first iPhone was shared with Steve Jobs in 2001. And he said, great idea, we need to do a smartphone, but it's not the right time to start a project right now. Let's create a small task team to study and learn, because we don't know anything about phones or smartphones. So they didn't say no to the idea. They said, learn first, narrow down the options. Let's build some competencies. Let's check about which partners. And then once the idea is mature, we know what we want, then you execute. And I think that's one of the reasons for me why we fail so much, is because we don't master this part of implementation. We start too early, we put initiatives, programs, projects, and then, hey, what do we need to do? And then we just messed up everything. So very important, knowing when you start your implementation, your ideas, it's key. And we as strategy implementation, I think we are the ones who need to play a role there. The other thing I think which companies have very little control of is the balance in their portfolio. And this is something I wrote in my book, is I took the idea from Clayton Christensen. So for those who were yesterday with Thinker 50, he's one of the biggest gurus in management, in innovation's dilemma. And he talked about innovation could be three types: efficiency, that we improve how we run organization; sustaining, we keep developing products; and transformative. So I took the same for projects and initial programs. And I think we need to be more aware of how are we splitting our initiatives in these three areas. If you put too much in efficiency, if you just do efficiency, you're not going to grow that much. If 80%, 90% of your strategic initiatives are in that box, you will be out of business very quickly. If you do too much transformation, 80%, you're going to lose on efficiency. You're going to start losing customers. So this is something that I see companies don't do. And it should be one of their more priorities. And I think a good balance is, let's keep being more efficient 50%. Let's keep growing the business 30%, but you always need to have about 10% or more, something like that on transformation. You see that it doesn't add up to 100% on purpose. I think companies should have a bit of margin to move quicker. If all your resources are fully booked, you have a big problem because you're slow at reacting. So agility comes also by having flexibility on your resources. And the other important thing here is you need to aim for 100% success rate for efficiency initiatives. You can fail maybe 20% on sustaining, 80% has to be delivered. And I think failure on the 10% transfer is good. 90% failure, it's okay, because we're trying new things. If you're reaching 100% success on transformation, you're not taking enough risk. So I think this is a super important dashboard or whatever tool that companies should be using every year, every quarter, when we talk about how we are doing in terms of, our future. Then some changes that I'd like to share with you. This is a very famous quote from Mohamed Alabar, chairman of Emaar, the Dubai-based giant. And he wrote a mail to all the employees saying, when you reach the end of this email, you will notice something different. I have no job title. And from this moment onwards, you know you don't have either. So I think there's a big movement towards moving out of all traditional concepts. One of them, job titles, resource allocation. So I think this, again, makes our focus on implementations much bigger. And then some learnings from some projects that I see here that I've been researching lately, and some highlights. I think you maybe remember in Thailand, this group of kids, the football team, were trapped in these caves a few kilometers. I think it was 4 kilometers. Took them two weeks to capture them. And I think when you look at this type of implementations, is that kind of alignment between all the stakeholders, right? They have a clear purpose. They know what to do. They work all together. There's clear governance. There's support from the top. So when we have these elements, things are really important, and you can achieve big things that we think are impossible. One thing that I also, a quick tip is, when you want to have pressure, extra pressure on your initiatives, the biggest pressure comes when you have an external commitment. That's why Olympic Games are never late, right? They start always on time. The date is set 10 years in advance, and they deliver. So when you're looking at your initiatives, remember that when you make an external commitment to your shareholders, to your stakeholders, to your clients, that will add a lot of attention to your initiative. That's where you will get resources. That will get pressure as well. If you don't announce a deadline externally, your initiative will have less focus, will have less pressure. Maybe you can announce it internally to the whole company that you generate. So knowing how to communicate deadlines, it helps to create pressure. If you just announce it to your department, deadline will be missed for sure. That project doesn't mean. So important to know the different levels of commitment. The highest commitment, external communication of your deadlines. This is a great example of how we need to think differently. This project was about the renovation of one of the most important highways in Germany, going to the Netherlands. And traditionally, you renovate a highway by closing one lane, then you do the work, then you close the other one, and then the other one. So you do it in sequence, and it can last about 24 months. So traffic for 24 months. And there was this project leader in Germany who said, let's try something else. Let's just close the whole highway. Let's just everything. Nobody passes by. It's like, are you crazy? This is going to be a big problem. And she said, it's going to be better. The benefits are much higher. We're going to close it for 3 months, and you will manage that. And she went ahead and they delivered that. So instead of 24 months of pain and traffic and pollution, they did that in 3 months. But the difference is what she spent 2 years planning the 3 months. So planning, it's something that is, I think today we don't appreciate the importance of planning, but planning, the most successful projects have big plans behind. And here they had a plan that it was sending every day what would have to happen and working 24 hours. So here you can achieve disruptive approaches, but we need to think in advance and plan all the options. Last couple, and then we open up for discussion. I think the purpose, I'm a big fan of purpose. And I think this is what we need more. I think strategies need a purpose and a higher purpose, not all the time, but what you see from the Burj Khalifa, it was not just creating the tallest building in the world. The goal of the Burj Khalifa was to put Dubai in the map. And you heard Sir Badr, they're doing the same on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It's 2030, they have a vision, there's a purpose. And I think this is what we miss often in organization. What is the purpose? So if you're doing implementation, always ask what's the purpose behind. That's what it creates engagement. And if it's higher purpose, it will create more engagement. And the last one, I think what I learned from the development of the COVID vaccine is that we can do things much faster than what we are used to. A vaccine would take 10 to 12 years to be developed. It was done in 10 months. So what happened in that project? How can we replicate? How can we develop strategies that are get done in 10% of the time? Imagine a digital transformation. Maybe it takes 3 years to 5 years. Well, we know we can do it in 3 months, right? We have the elements, but what are those elements? Why do we need to spend 3 years waiting? So some of the factors that it is my final slide is that we need to think every time we look at strategy implementation is the purpose. What's the higher purpose? In the COVID vaccine was to save lives. And there was a sense of urgency. This is one of the most difficult parts to get. The sense of urgency accelerates everything. The CEOs of these companies were 100% engaged on that implementation, on those strategies, on those programs. I was in a conference with HBR and the CEO of Pfizer, and they asked him, how much time did you spend developing that vaccine? And he said 100%. And I asked, how much time were you spending before in projects and strategy? Well, maybe 10% or not even that. So the role of the CEO focusing on the future, on the implementation, plays a massive role. If you get your CEO driving the most important strategic initiatives, that will accelerate, that you win at least 50% of the time, right? So we need to educate them. And don't be afraid to talk to your CEO. Say, listen, you want this to be successful? I need you. Just dedicate one day per week. Okay. Robin talked about the flat company, the horizontal structures. This is just, you need that for Accelerate. You cannot wait 3 weeks for a steering committee to decide on important issues. Decisions have to be made today. So that is flat organization. I think one of the most disruptive discussions in this space for the last 20 years was you had to choose between agile methods and more waterfall traditional project management, and that's completely wrong. If you go for agile approach only, you'll fail for sure. Failure is even higher. If you go to traditional project management, failure is high. Modern implementation requires a lot of tools, including agile, lean startup, Six Sigma. So I think we need to build tool sets, toolbox, and I think the SIR strategy implementation roadmap tries to address that. We need many tools, not just one. That's a big mistake. For 20 years, we've done that. The stakeholder engagement from day one is key. External, so this is going into the ecosystem part. Many of these projects require partners, and they need to be 100% engaged. And then the whole processes and light, everything has to move fast. So this is just a formula of success. And with that, I think we're going into...
sorry, just before we do, Antonio, go back. You have a question from Fleming. And Fleming, please join us, or Antonio can see the question in the chat box.
Hi, Fleming.
Hello, good morning. Do you want me to read it?
Please,
yes, please.
Just ask your question. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Lovely to meet you. Thank you for joining us from Bermuda.
You're welcome. So yeah, I was acknowledging that there is a challenge in understanding that projects take quite a bit of time, especially when you use the stakeholder engagement, or we call it community engagement in nonprofit world model, because you have to consult with so many groups and build consensus around particular ideas. And usually you have a snowball effect. Once you get into this group of stakeholders, then they lead you to another group of stakeholders, and your product ends up looking a lot different than what you anticipated. So it takes time. But then on the other hand, there isn't, at least in Bermuda to a large degree, a culture that gives room for that financially, or even to use experts around projects in a nonprofit. That's almost like a luxury. So it's very challenging then, and many nonprofits fail at their future. They're very stuck in survival mode as a result. So I was acknowledging what you were saying.
Okay.
And
Thank you, Fleming. I completely agree with what you're saying, and it's a big challenge, of course. And I think we need to educate people in the sector as well. I think, yeah, I don't have anything to add. It's spot on. Well done.
Okay. Antonio, do you want to show the breakouts? And
Sure. Let me show back the breakouts. Here is the slide. So we're going to put you, I don't know how many people we have on the call, so maybe 2 groups will make.
Yeah, agreed. It's all ready to go.
And we're ready to go, 15 minutes, and we'll stop by and yeah, go ahead.
So the discussion is, what we'd like you to discuss is post the conference, Antonio and I would like to ask those who are, we're going to open up to all members who would like to contribute to the white paper. But we'd like to ask you now, reflecting on what you've heard from myself, from Antonio, from the winners today, and from those who were with us yesterday, what is your one recommendation for a great implementation in 2023 post-pandemic? Very much in a, as you've seen from Antonio and I, in a digital and a sustainable world. So if you make one recommendation, we're going to give you 13 minutes in the breakout. When you go into the breakout, please do assign a leader. We've only got 2 rooms, so we'll just be able to do a quick debrief afterwards. And then we will follow this up with an invitation for people to contribute to the white paper that we'll be publishing next quarter. So the rooms are open. Okay, so have a wonderful chat, and we look forward to seeing you in 13 minutes.
I will go to one of the breakouts because there's just 3 people there. We lost a few people in there. Where are they?
Yeah, I'm just... Saria, are you there? Yeah, we'll leave it for, oh, wife, you shouldn't be. Hey, Saria, please do join room 2.
Sorry, I can't tell which speaker you are referring to.
Hey, Biju.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Hey, Morris. All right, everyone's just coming back. Laurie, Alan. All right, so welcome back, everyone. We're at the closing part of our 2-day conference. And the discussion has been what makes a great implementation. 2 rooms, Fleming, Sadi, Hannah, and Laurie are room 1. Can we ask the spokesperson for room 1 to give us their thoughts? What would you put in a white paper that makes a great implementation?
Well, actually,
Well,
sorry.
I was appointed. Oh, sorry, Laurie.
Yeah, no, you carry on. You did a great job. So you carry on.
Well volunteered, Laurie.
Yeah, I'll back you up.
Thanks, Morris. Good to see you.
Yeah, we were in the group with Badr, Ellen, and Antonio, and we talked about what we saw, that great implementation, it's key to look at it holistically. What you see in a lot of organizations is that it's focused primarily maybe on one project or one piece of the pie from the strategy implementation roadmap. So, for example, we go for the business model, or we go for the value, or we go for leadership, but it's all of it. It's culture, it's engagement, and everything. And one of the things that was key, what we learned, is also putting the right milestones and asking the right questions every time to check whether we are on the same page and whether we are reaching our goals, so that you have some kind of metric to see, where am I, where did I do good, where did I fail, and what do I need to change to get back on track. That were some of the key points that we had in our group.
Yeah,
and not too lot and not too many projects, but be selective. But sometimes it's not the case that you can choose, but you have to, because of the type of industry. You just have to put everything in one pot. But if you have the possibility to make a proper choice, then go with priorities on the projects that bring the most to the purpose that you have as an organization.
Lawrence, well summarized. I like the way you put it, that, you got to be holistic. It's not about focusing on one area, and I fully agree with you, but all the moving parts. So when Antonio and I developed SIR, it was to emphasize that it's not just about measurement or just about performance or just about the leadership. It's about all the moving parts. And fully agree with your check-ins. And Biju, I'm not going to let you off the hook because we've got you on the call. So appreciate your time. So I'm going to get Biju to come in on this one in a minute, because he can talk much better about check-ins than I can. Biju, I'm just going to introduce you for those who haven't met you before. Biju is Head of Innovation. I don't know your official title. I think Head of Innovation is your official title, isn't it? At DBS. He and I have known each other for a while now. We had the pleasure of presenting together for INSEAD last year and bumping into each other all the time at DBS. Biju, you've been using check-ins and the Agile at Scale in DBS. Can you share your perspective for everyone else? Because you've got so much knowledge and wonderful experience doing this. And thank you, Morris.
So actually, I was in the group with Morris. So Morris was sort of echoing some of the things we had discussed at the breakout. But I guess my key point was that the ritual. So the ritual of essentially asking. So every time we roll out a new program, one of the things we do is we will normalize the language that leadership uses. So if it's a program, let's say we did our Asian standards and the program was called RED, we clearly articulated the language that the leadership would ask at the meetings. Is the project red? Can it be redder? How is it red, etc.? Or if you were doing a project around customer centricity, we would give them the questions about how do you ask and ensure that the emergence has been done and the discovery has been done and the customer's insights have been recorded. The same with data. So what would happen is the senior leadership would have the same language, and it would signal to the organization that it was important, leadership was aligned, and as mentioned, our plans never always went the way we wanted to. The milestones somewhere went left and right, but the ritual of perpetually asking ensured the organization was always moving towards the target, and the pivots that were made and the learnings were always recorded. So that the ability to give your senior leadership the right language and coaching them on the right questions, we felt that it perpetuated, and invariably that ended up becoming the culture, because people would tweak on the behavior and say, okay, this is important. They would prioritize it. They would start absorbing the knowledge, and it would sort of percolate through the organization.
Thank you. And if I can add on to that, one of the observations from working with you over the years is they also make it fun. Yeah, so, you know, we have the DBS wow and the phrase Gandalf, and we think of wizardry and what would Jeff do to challenge as a techie. So, you know, they also have a great technique. The language becomes critical. In many companies struggle with digital transformation because it gets weighed down in bureaucracy and foreign language, but DBS success partly comes from the fun you've made it. So well done on that.
Just on that, so we have a pride value set, and the E is everything fun. So I know you mentioned about Mojo. So when we run our meetings, we have this ritual of a meeting owner and a joyful observer. We actually created a red chair and a yellow chair. The red chair is the owner and the observer is the yellow chair.
Okay.
And we had two caricatures, so two actual, let's say, mascots, and they would randomly break into a room, and you'd have these two, like Disneyland, you'd have these two characters that would come in, and they would demand to ask who the Mo and Joe is and make sure that they were following the rituals. So it was hilarious.
And that's following Raccoon as well, which is for another day. All right, thank you, Morris. Thank you, Abhijit, for sharing. Shall we open up for the other team, which is Fleming, Sadi, Hannah, and Laurie?
Okay, I'll start. I know Sadi did a great job as well to summarize. So what we all agreed on is, and building on what has been said on the both last two speakers, is if you've got the holistic view, however, and the top leadership, getting them fully engaged and really being the one that's are championing and leading the way. So how do we, that's the other big critical success factor, is when you do get leadership. And I happen to have worked with DBS as well. So I've seen it in Singapore Airlines and organizations like that and you know, that was Dr. Sadi and Fleming and the rest of the group was saying that when we see leadership actually walking the talk, role modeling, you know, really embracing the new way of doing things, that, you know, people mirror that. So from our side, how do we get those leaders involved? And that's one of the most important things amongst all the, you know, getting all the pieces of the puzzle. Yeah.
And isn't it amazing, Laurie, that here we are, 2023, and we still need leaders to step up. You think we'd have drummed it into them, lead by example, and yet so often they craft a strategy and then turn the back and go, yeah, implementation's for everybody else, not for me.
And worse, and on top of that is, I always just say, you get each of the leaders to, on a post-it, to describe what it is, where we're heading. And I promise you, if there are 20 leaders, there are 20 different post-its. So
I use that as well, fully agree.
It's about getting them aligned and amongst themselves, and for us to facilitate that. Yeah.
So takeaway is the leadership alignment is still as critical today as it was pre-pandemic, and you know, introducing that holistic approach. It's not one or two things. We need a, you know, the 7, for example, around our strategy implementation roadmap to guide the organization through that and use a language that people can understand, get excited about. Okay, and a special thanks to Laurie as one of our board members. Laurie helped Antonio and I so much. She was so generous with her time and guidance in helping us create the Institute. So a special thank you. Shukran, because you're in Dubai now. So thank you for that. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, any other closing comments? What makes a great implementation? Would anyone else like to contribute?
Maybe just to reiterate.
Adi, hi there. Good to see you.
Me too. Just to reiterate the big challenge of doing the awareness and getting the leader. You see, the leadership is one of the 7 domains within the SIR. But the problem is that perhaps as time goes by, you're gonna find lots of people from middle manager to professional to a little bit above learning and adopting. But if we don't have the C level, the board of director level, learn and have awareness of these concepts, transformation will not go on to transform the way they operate and focus more on strategy implementation. And this is, I believe, one of the biggest challenges, how to get this knowledge into the heads of the people upstairs. Personally, it's been a challenge in all my life. I do a lot of capacity building projects, and there is no like Marlin the magician or a secret pill or Aladdin's lamp, as you say it in DBS maybe. Okay, it's no secret thing. It's a very hard thing, but I think this is fit for like a Harvard article to address. How do you do this teaching or awareness or convincing for the top leaders who know it all?
Yeah, very well put. And, getting them to stay engaged with that right mindset and getting them, isn't it just becomes so frustrating that every survey we do on implementation reinforces the need for them to do it. And yet there's still some barrier we need to overcome, and that we can highlight in the paper. So Sadi, I hope you'll contribute to that. Thank you, Shukran. Are you in Lebanon today? Are you at home, or where are you?
Today I'm in Lebanon, last week in Saudi. In 2 weeks I'll be in Saudi. So I fly a lot.
So thank you. Antonio, your closing comments, and we'll wrap things up.
Yeah, no, thank you for the contribution. I think the group is small, but the input is great. So, and it allows to closer discussion. So I'm very pleased to see the comments in the group. Laurie, your feedback. I think it's been 2 great days, very different, but I want to thank all of the participants, friends, being here. I think it's a milestone today with the awards. And we look forward, keep working together on this, on the implementation. I think it's our time to excel, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you everyone for being here.
Okay, thanks, Antonio.
Thank you, Antonio, Robin, everyone.
Thank you, Sadi. It comes to myself just to say thank you. Yesterday, we had a wonderful presentation from Liran, from Google, Paul from Strategy & Co, part of PwC, from Stuart and Des, the founders of Thinkers 50. Thank you to them. Today, we want to congratulate our winners in L'Oreal for the inaugural award for implementation, and to Sir Badir for his individual. But most importantly, thank you to all of you and everyone who's attended over the 2 days. And it just leaves from Antonio and I to say all the best on your implementation journey. And Shushuni, Shukran, au revoir. Thank you to everyone. Merci beaucoup. Take care. All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.